Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. In this video, I'm going to repair and upgrade my ZD Racing DBX 10 desert truck. While I'm doing this, I'm going to discuss maintenance in general, the tools, techniques, and pitfalls. Off-road buggies need much more maintenance than on-road cars, and the reasons are sand, rocks, dirt, clay, water, salt water, grass, weeds, and the combination of dirt and water called mud. And you just can't take your truck out and bash it through water, mud, and or worst of all, salt water, and not do an almost top to bottom inside out service on your vehicle. Otherwise you're going to end up with rust and corrosion, and again, salt water being the most volatile. In the last video, I broke a front axle while bashing the truck, and I ordered the problems to fix it. I went over those parts at the tail end of the video, but let's start this video by going over those parts, and I'll discuss what those are going to bring to the truck. You may want to get some of those for yourself. I'm going to have the links in the description below. So here is the truck, and as you can see, I did not clean this immediately after bringing it back, but it was a very dry day. It's pretty much just surface dust. But as you can see, there is a drive shaft missing here, and there is one on this side, but not here. And that, when it broke, it basically turned the car into a front-wheel drive vehicle, because without a drive shaft here to equalize the differential, you know, this wheel wasn't really doing much. It still drove, and it was still fun, but it definitely took a lot of the traction out of it in the rough stuff. So anyway, obviously something that needed to be fixed. Now, parts. Set of drive shafts. Let me go ahead and give you the part number on here. There's a 0827, and then there's the skew here. I'm just gonna hold that up to the camera for you. I got these off of Banggood, and they were actually really quick at getting these parts over to me. I'll have links in the descriptions for these. I got a set of front A-arms, even though I don't have any broken, because this is going to be the weak link after I get this finished. And I'll explain why in a moment. This is a set of C-cups and steering knuckles, and these are made out of anodized aluminum. And 0603, sorry about the A-arm part number. They don't seem to mark it the same way these do. We've got 75339. Anyway, you'll have links. Now, since I'm going to replace this white piece here and the inner hub, I've heard these break fairly easily. One of the viewers mentioned that he broke his the first time out. So upgrading to the aluminum is a good idea. They're only $22, maybe $23, maybe $22.99, something like that. But once those are replaced with metal, the A-arm becomes the weak link at that point. So bought a set of a spare set, and I think those will fit front or rear. I'm not 100% sure on that. Either way, I'll probably get a set of rears at some point just to have in the toolbox. That way, if I break one of them, it's not a big deal. I can go, you know, I could even fix it out in the field. But these are going to make the front end considerably stronger. And I think I know why the drive shaft broke. I'm not 100% sure, but there's several things that went on. There was a lot of tall grass, and anytime I got off the dirt section, exposed dirt, and got into that tall grass, the grass would get wound up in the hubs, and that was a problem. That might have stressed it and caused it to break. Also, if the dog bone can escape or get or start to escape from the out drive, it can bite in and get chewed up. The out drive doesn't have any obvious damage, so I don't know if that was the causality to that break. But we'll get a look at what's going on when I take this apart. We'll see how much of the assembly is left. It could have been one of the pins coming loose and the CV joint just coming apart, because it didn't break here at its thinnest point. It looks like it broke back here, or it just came out. So we'll find out. So let's talk about maintenance. Let me grab a couple tools real quick. Okay, aside from your normal tools that you're going to need to disassemble and reassemble, this is a really handy item to have in your pit box for any type of racing, on-road or off-road. It's just an angled paintbrush with a short handle. Makes it very easy to handle. It's easy to just give the car a quick brushing off. You know, on-road cars pick up sand, bits of gravel, at least when you're racing outdoors. Indoors carpet, you know, they just get dusty and stuff. But this can be very, very handy for just doing a quick cleanup. And it can even get into some of the harder to reach spots because the bristles are nice and long. A slightly stiffer but still gentle brush. You don't want anything abusive like a metal bristle brush. If you've got stuff on there so hard to remove that it takes a metal brush, you got bigger issues. Good old paper towels, always handy. Lint-free towels are great, especially when you're in the reassembly phase and you don't want to carry dust onto parts, especially things that are going to be greased. A good all-purpose cleaner. This is made by ProTech RC, or at least it's branded and resold by ProTech RC. It's just a degreaser cleaner, and basically you can just spritz the car down with this and then hit it with a hose, depending on the type of car and the environment. And then of course, this can be really handy too. Just good old dust off, canned air, the kind of stuff you use for, you know, cleaning out the insides of a PC, laptop, other electronics. For indoor racing in particular, this can be very handy to just get any dust and debris that is accumulating on the car in between runs. So good things to have. Now, one thing I highly recommend is before you even start this process, you take the wheels off the car. Okay, and here's the reason why. Your wheels should have holes in them. They should be vented so that the tire isn't a balloon. You want the tire to be able to compress, have the air squeeze out through the holes, and then you want it to return to size. Those holes will allow water to get in, and if water gets in, you need to, at some point, really take them apart and clean them. Now, that's one of the reasons that this car is a real positive. It's got beadlock wheels, actual beadlocks that you can take apart and reassemble, so you do not have to glue your tires down to the rim. I upgraded the foams. If you've watched the first couple videos I did on this, first thing you want to do is take off the wheels and tires, and you can clean those separately. You know, dust them off. You really don't need to worry about getting every bit of grime off them, because you're going to get them dirty again in no time. You know, clean the rims up as much as you want. Make sure there's no dirt packed in anywhere, anything that's going to like add weight and throw the wheel off balance. You don't want that. And so now, in theory, depending on the quality of our electronics and your appetite for danger, I guess, I could take that spray bottle and spritz like the front suspension arms, this area here, and hit it with a hose and wash out a lot of gunk. But I'm probably not going to do that today because it's not that bad. If it was covered in mud yeah, you're going to want to do that. And at that point, you may also just want to do a complete tear down and rebuild of the car. I mean, that's something that you should do periodically anyway, you know, because shocks leak, diffs leak, fluid gets old, loses, you know, the viscosity changes. So those are all things you should be doing from time to time. See? Now, when this was wet, when it was, you know, fresh, this would be binding up in there. Now that it's, you know, dried out, it's shrunk in size. And see, one of the things you need to bear in mind, if you're going to use a degreaser and water to clean your car, you're not going to be able to wait very long before taking your bearings out and cleaning those and re-greasing them. And that's a chore and it's all in itself. Now, there are some tools that can help you with that. I've got one still in the bag. I've got a couple of these in different sizes. This is called a bearing blaster. It's obviously by RPM. And they tell you the inner outer diameter range of bearings you want. This is 81170. As you can see, it's retails for about $9. They're probably actually a little less than that, depending on where you find them. But basically, it's a two-piece thing with this little cone. You pull this off, you put your bearing in there, you close it back up again, and you take some type of degreaser that is a spray can that has the little pipe coming off the end of it. You know, they're about that long, usually a piece of red tubing. And you stick that piece of tubing into the hole here, and you spray that in several times, roll the bearing a little bit, maybe flip it over, hit it again, and it basically blasts all the dirt and grime and grease out of your bearing, and you have a nice clean, you know, bearing, and you let them dry, and then you grease them. If you can remove the seals, great. Otherwise, you're going to have to use oil, because once you clean out all that grease, unless it's the type with the rubber seals, and you remove those seals carefully so you can put them back in again, you're never going to get a thick bearing grease back into those bearings. So you'll have to use oil, and once you start using bearing oil, you have to do frequent changes, because that oil will spin out, dry out, and if you're off-roading, it's going to be gone in a day at the track. It's done, and you need to take them all out again and do them again. Now, these are just your hub bearings. Your gearbox bearings, you're not going to get much in there, but it is something you need to be wary of, and that's why I really do not like hosing the car off. You know, if it's totally caked in mud, okay, but you can do more harm than good, because if you can literally ruin your bearings, because if you can't get them re-greased, you got no option but to replace them. All things to keep in mind. So let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and pull those. Another nice thing about this car is this pop-up body. Makes it easy to get to your battery. And 2 screws and 2 clips, and the body is off. Of course, you have to disconnect the light bar, but, you know, minor. There are 2 little bushings. They're just plastic tubes. Always have some trays around to put parts in. This I'm just gonna wipe off with a damp paper towel, and that'll be done. Because as you can see, there's no Not much dirt up in here, just a little dust. And that, a lot of that would probably just to show you. See that? Okay, look at this now. See? Huge difference in just a second with the brush. I could probably do the same thing to most of the outside, but just to not spread dust around the work table, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off. Another nice thing about using these is you can toss them into your clothes washer, you know, maybe rinse them in a utility sink first to get any obvious dirt off them that you don't have to take into your machine, and then run them through a wash and they're good as new. Okay, I thought I would just kind of show you something oh, interesting. I'll take care of that in a minute. Just kind of give you an idea of what you can do with brush and a little canned air. So I'm just going to give you kind of a close-up look over on the car here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the battery strap. Set that aside. I'm going to disconnect the front light so I don't damage that wire in the process. And so I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to use nothing on this but my two brushes and the can of air, and I'll come back in a second and show you what I was able to do with just those two items. No cleaner or towels or anything else, just that. Okay, so have a look. Huge difference, and that literally was just like a few seconds with the two brushes and a quick finishing shot with the canned air, and very nice. So I mean, that's 90%. Literally could just take it out right now and it'd be fine, but there are things I want to check and change, so I'm going to continue the process. Things to watch out for. Again, if you are going to use water or any type of cleaning fluid, you have to make sure that everything is completely dry. Most of these cars are just regular steel bolts. They're not, most cars in general, even the high-end kits, a lot of the hardware is just steel. It's not even stainless, so they will rust. So you got to watch out for that. Everything has to be dried or you're going to end up with corrosion. If you take your car to the beach, even if you don't get into the salt water, the salt in the air, any even lightly damp sand is going to carry salt with it. Salt is very corrosive. The anodized aluminum will hold up pretty well for a little while, but if you get enough on there and it stays there for any length of time, it's a problem. Now, another thing, if you're racing and you're going to be adjusting your preload from time to time, trying to tune your car, anytime you come in from a run, take a brush like that small bristle brush that I have. These are actually made by J Concepts. They're fairly inexpensive. They sell them in a couple of different colors. I've got a handful of these. I use some of them for tire compound. If you use these for a particular purpose, keep them in that roll. Buy extras. Do not cross-pollinate. Do not multitask your brush. Do not take a brush that has had tire compound on it and then clean your car, or vice versa, because you're going to have problems. Now, one thing I like to do after almost every run, especially if I'm doing any tuning, is clean right here. Just take your brush and go around the threads on your shock bodies, because there's an O-ring inside the adjuster here, and that will take the dirt and carry it into the threads and into that O-ring, area, and you'll have to take it completely apart to get it out of there, and it will make this bind up. It'll make it harder to adjust. At some point it might even lock up on you, and you might have to take the shock off of the car and go at it with tools as opposed to just being able to make adjustments with your fingers. And you could potentially damage and or ruin a shock body if you really seize it up. So make that something that you do, as before you make any adjustments, even a little turn, just brush the threads clean so you don't carry dirt into that seal. And see, this is the kind of little tips that you're not going to get from every single video I do. I can't mention everything in every video. This is why I recommend that even if you're not interested in a particular car, and this is a self-serving thing for me to say because I'm asking you to watch more of my videos, but there is a lot of information in my build videos, and if I sat down and tried to go through all of them and write down every tip and trick and little nugget of information that's going to be of benefit to people, I could fill up several hours of video. So it's not a bad idea to, especially if you're fairly new to the hobby, you're kind of learning how things work and what to do, and you know, watch several of my build videos and watch the entire series, not just one video, because if you look in the lower left corner of every video, there's a part number, part 1, part 5, whatever, however many videos I make for each particular kit. So a car that is a complete build-up kit might have 10 or 12 videos, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour long each. That's a lot of information packed in there. So onward, my next step is going to be to disassemble the front hubs. I'm going to do both because I'm going to be replacing the plastic components over here. I'm going to clean the axles and the CV joints, and I'm going to replace this missing axle. And at this point, we'll see what actually broke, how it broke. Okay, let me show you where this broke. It broke right in here. As you can see, we have two separate pieces in here. So let me go ahead and push the pin out. And I can show you. So as you can see, it broke in two places. It broke at the base where they are joined together, and it broke on either side. So actually three places. It actually broke on either side of the shaft itself. So the barrel doesn't appear to be damaged, so I can keep that as a spare item along with the pin, but I'm going to use the new parts first. It does have a bit of a nick in it right there. When these things came apart, it took a bite out of it. So it was, there's a lot of power going through these joints, so it's not surprising. And the pin looks reasonably flat. Let's see, let me roll it on a flat surface here. It looks reasonably intact and reasonably flat. I don't think these things are very well machined to begin with. Make sure you don't lose this spacer here that goes in between the outer bearing and the pin. That's not something you want to lose. It provides a little dust protection for the bearing, as well as spacing things out correctly. So I'll go ahead and let me get a little baggie to save these spares in. Actually, it's about time that I started a parts box for this car. So I'm going to take that original pin and the barrel, and I'll save these plastic parts as well, because you never know. The aluminum one might get bent or broken, and while I'm waiting for replacements to show up, I could still drive the car. Looks like that when it came off, it bit into the plastic in a few spots too. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely making it a little hard to get the bearing out. There we go. Let's check that bearing. I don't feel any rough spots, so I think the bearing survived. It's a good thing. I don't have a doubt I have this size bearing in my spares. So as you can see, when that arm broke and was flailing around a little bit before it got tossed free, it chewed the plastic a teeny bit. You know, nothing that would prevent reusing this part, but that would be in the event of emergency kind of thing. Okay, so, and they are marked left and right, which is very handy. Let's see about these guys here. We have any markings on them? It's not the highest quality machining. Let me just show you some stuff. You know, like this little ridge here, this little ding there, some imperfections here and here, some imperfections in the flat surface here. You know, the way this is done there, it's just it's a very rough CNC process that they used on this. They sure didn't take their time or anything. So let's see. Okay, they face outward and they are in that orientation. So that's our right hand side, this is our left. Just looking again to see if did I miss any lettering on there on either of them. Nope, they didn't bother to stamp left or right on those, but okay. So fitment's pretty good. Bearing fits well. It's not overly tight, but it's not loose. That's good. Okay, and nice that they gave us new hardware. There is no top or bottom. These appear to all be the same size. So that's one that we don't need to worry about. And we are definitely going to want to use Loctite and a generous quantity A little bit of lube in here would be a good idea too. I think I'm just going to use good old black grease. TLR grease right here. High pressure black grease. Perfect. Okay, and the arm is up. What am I doing? It is doing this totally upside down. Like that. And having a little grease on top here. Don't want to get it into the threads. I'm going to go ahead and put some Loctite in the threads here now, as opposed to putting them on the screw. It's a little more than I would normally use. Doesn't take a lot. Excuse me. Okay, now these bottom out without clamping down, so you should be able to tighten them up and still have fluid movement. And we can. Very nice. I'm definitely pleased with these aluminum parts. I mean, they're rough as far as the machining, but what's most important is the tolerances and the fit, and everything fits perfect. So that's a biggie. I'd rather have some scrapes and it not be quite as pretty and yet have everything fit properly than have this not fit properly but have it look gorgeous. Now, that could be a reason for that thing breaking, is that these little barrels are a little snug. You see, they should fit in here without being difficult like this. Not 100% sure whether the problem's in the barrel or in here. I think it's in here, in the axle itself. I'm going to get out some small files, try and clean things up a little bit. Okay, small hobbyist files are good things to have. One of them is a rat tail, the other one is a triangle file. Sometimes the triangle can actually be the best. And just kind of get it in there and rotate it around, let those edges kind of clean up any flash or anything that didn't come out through the molding process well. And see, if that was tight, if that was binding, that could have been the cause of the destruction. See, now it moves. It goes in and out nice and easy. I'm going to have to check the other one. The rear just uses a dog bone at both ends. There's no CV joint, so that will not be a problem. Oop, bumped the camera. But yeah, I'm definitely going to take that one apart and check it. There's a little bit of flashing there as well. This is something that really should be addressed, or should have been addressed in the first video if I had known that this was going to be a problem. I didn't take the car 100% apart. I took it about 98% apart. And I'll bet you that that was a problem. And let's check this one. I bet we're going to have the same kind of thing. Yeah, it doesn't want to go in. It should go in easy, and it doesn't. So now I'm not going to be using this arm right away unless that one has obvious signs of damage. But I don't want to have to do this at the last minute. I'd rather prep it now so that at some point when I do have to swap it out, this is already ready to go and I don't have to worry about rummaging for tools. Because see, if that was binding even just a little bit, the high speed back and forth and rotation of this part would build up heat very, very quickly from the friction, and then it would just shatter. It would just come apart. Do you find these videos to be helpful, useful to you? Then please help me keep this channel going by donating. Click the link up here and you can donate safely through PayPal on either a one-time or a monthly basis, your choice. So that one is all ready for future use. Okay, that one's in. That's the old shaft. I'm gonna save that as well. What am I doing? Supposed to be using grease. Now, one viewer mentioned a product which I have used in the past and sometimes use. He recommended a bike lubricant, chain lubricant specifically for bicycle chains. I know of that product because I used to race mountain bikes and triathlons, and so I also actually worked as a bike mechanic when I was a kid. They make like a dry silicone type of chain lube that doesn't pick up nearly as much dust as a liquid or a stickier kind of lubricant, and that can be a really nice product to use. Regular grease, I think, for stuff like this is probably better because it's thicker, it stays in better, and if you service your parts on a fairly regular basis, you don't have to worry about the mud and the grease mixing together to the point where it becomes a destructive force. And you really should be, you know, doing maintenance on your cars on a regular basis. Okay, line the hole up at center. Okay, the CV joint is smooth. Let's clean off the extra grease. Q-tips are a really handy thing. In this case, I am using it to clean the out drive here, get any dirt out of the cup. Just love banging my forehead into the camera. Sorry, guys. Here's something I want to look at. Okay, the easiest way to do this is going to be to get it up close for you. We have this pin here, and this is where our suspension rotates. Now, we don't want to screw this all the way in because we don't want the threads protruding through, especially with an aluminum part. So I'm going to leave it like, you know, like maybe one turn from fully in. Let's see how this fits. Okay, that's good. If this was a race car, I would probably put this in my Dremel and polish the section that this is going to rotate on, but I don't think that's necessary for this level of driving. The actual range of motion is only you know, a few degrees, 10 degrees maybe tops, so there isn't that much motion, but it's definitely going to get some grease. Okay, that's interesting. If I turn this all the way before it hits the bump stop here, or wherever its end of throw is, it's actually hitting on here. So that would lock that up. And if I turn it the other way, all the way, same kind of thing. So I might, at some point, if this feels like it's a bit of an issue, if I get some weird handling, take a Dremel, take this part off, and basically just clean up like this edge right here. Just grind that down a little bit so that the kingpin can't make contact with it. But depending on the range of motion for this, it may not hit at all, and if it does, it's only going to be at the extremes to one side or the other, so it may not be a factor, but it's good to at least take note of such things. Now I need to grease up the dog bone here. So one of the possible things that could have caused that break was the suspension moving too far to the point where the dog bone here was coming out of the outdrive, and the outdrive catch on it and torque it to the point where it snapped. Obviously that wasn't the case. I think that we've definitely found the problem in that those holes are tight, and the barrel wasn't fitting properly. This is a tight spot here too. This is another thing that might take a little massaging. Might have to file the A-arm a little bit. Yeah, that's going to be a little tough. Okay, the easiest way to do that is going to be with an X-Acto knife. I'm kind of going to just shave a little bit of plastic off. Do it just a little bit at a time. See, just little shavings like that. And then try it, and then just keep going a little bit at a time until I hit a level that I'm comfortable with. It's still too tight. Remember, you can't add it back on, so don't take too much off. I think we're getting there. Let's try that. Let me put the kingpin in. Not, I think it'll work. It's definitely not loose, but it seems to move reasonably freely. And those big tires have a lot of mass, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. See if I can spot where the problem is there. It's still binding a little bit. I think I need to take a little off that top edge where, right here where this curvature is kind of getting a little too close. Okay. There we go. It goes together easier now. Always a good sign that you're getting things fitted right. And remember, the plastic is going to hold that, so it doesn't have to be tight. We don't want those threads going into where the aluminum is. So it seems to move fairly fluid. Again, not super loose, but I think it's good enough. I hate a mix of Phillips head and Allen wrench. Give me one or the other, preferably the hex heads. Having to go back and forth is kind of a pain. Okay, so let's take those parts and put them in the parts box. And now it's time for the other side. But let's just have a look. Looks nice. Good action. Even at our lowest point, the dog bone is only like halfway to the entrance, so there's no way that that is popping out on us. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel. If you click the bell icon, you'll receive notifications every time I launch a new video. Thank you for watching.